Hello, and welcome to another episode of Reading Reddit with Amber. Happy Spooky Sunday! Today I have another set of stories from r/paranormal for you. I use creepy music in the background for these videos. Because the sound intensity level varies depending on whether you are listening with headphones or without, I have developed both a version that is best with headphones and a version that is best without. You are listening to the headphones version. For the no headphones version, click on the link in the description below. Our first story today is I was an idiot child that kept going back to the same house that terrified me. When I was little, probably around the age bracket of 10 to 14, I was pretty much living with my best friend Jackie at the time. We never left each other's side for more than a day, it felt like, and everyone at that point basically just thought we were sisters. Her mom was the best person I had ever met and still is, so I absolutely loved being at her house. That is, until I started experiencing the stuff there. Her mom used to tell us ghost stories before we went to sleep because we loved that stuff. By the time I was around 6, I was already watching Nightmare on Elm Street, if that gives you any indication how much I loved anything horror related. Anyway, I never really thought much of her stories because I was young and who cares, right? Wrong. Jackie's mom knew that the house they lived in was for sure haunted, and I just figured the stories she was telling us were made up. Wrong again. Now, before I get into what Jackie's parents have experienced in that house, let me tell you what I have personally experienced. Hold on to your trousers because it's a frickin' doozy. At least I think it is. My first experience I remember was when I was sleeping at her house one night. Jackie's room was all the way at the very end of the hall, and if you kept her bedroom door open, you could see straight down the other end of the hall. Absolutely terrifying, regardless if the house was haunted, because who wants to see complete and total darkness of a hallway when you're sleeping? Well, apparently Jackie did because she slept with her door open every single night. Yay me? So, I'm fast asleep, probably dreaming about some weird stuff, when all of a sudden I wake up and automatically feel very off. I almost felt as if someone was watching me from somewhere in the frickin' bedroom. Jackie has an alarm clock on my side of the bed, so I look over to check the time, and of course, guess what time it is? 3 a.m. So, I lay there for a minute and try and calm my breathing, but something in my mind is telling me that I need to look down the hall. Did I want to look down that hall? Heck no! Did I end up looking down that hallway? Unfortunately. I sit up in the bed just a little bit and muster up the courage to finally look in this dark abyss, and what do I see? A frickin' figure that is darker than the pitch black darkness of that hallway, just standing there. Not moving. Not making any sound. Just a human shadow standing perfectly still, staring right into the bedroom where we are sleeping. And what do I do as a little kid? Put the blanket over my head like that is somehow gonna protect me from a freaking ghost? Regardless, I somehow fell back asleep because all I remember is waking up the next morning. Obviously that didn't stop me from coming over there when, hello, it should have. Encounter number 2. Another night of waking up at 3 a.m. This time, to a piano playing? Luckily, Jackie happened to wake up at the exact same time as me. Still kind of weird to this day. We both slowly sat up and sat there and listened to this piano playing that started off very softly at first. It almost sounded like it was miles away, but also in the same room. Minute after minute, this piano started to get louder. It sounded like it was coming from the bedroom, but also nowhere near us at the same time. At this point, we were pretty much holding each other for dear life because the music started to become almost deafening. Then, with no warning at all, bam! Nothing. The music completely stopped, and it was dead silent. You could hear a rat take a poo at that point in time. Then we hear it. Hello? Right in between our heads. Of course, we both screamed bloody murder and her mom had to check on us because we were both having a freaking panic attack. But once again, that didn't stop me from coming back over. Truthfully, I deserve these experiences because I was a dumb child to keep going back over. Encounter number 3, my final encounter. Me and Jackie were home alone because her mom and dad were at work. I think we were 13 at this time. Jackie's mom had engraved it in our heads that everything had to be turned off when we left the house for any reason. TVs, radios, computers, etc. So before we left the house to go play basketball in the driveway, we turned everything off per usual. We played outside for maybe an hour or so. We walked back up to the door, and right before I put my hand on the knob to turn it, voices. Many voices. It sounds like a group of people are just having a conversation inside. Me and Jackie sat there and listened for a minute and tried to tell ourselves that it was probably just a TV left on. So, I opened the door. As soon as my hand turns that knob, nothing. The voices stop. Like no one was even there. We checked everything. TVs, radios, computers. Everything was off. I know this is getting to be a long one, so I'll save you all the stories of Jackie's mom, but I will mention one of them that still scares me to this day. According to her mom, one night she was sleeping and was woken up by screaming. A woman was literally screaming, "Help me!" Jackie's mom said it was such a loud scream and a cry for help that it gave her chills. She immediately shot up out of bed and was checking through the whole house because she said it sounded like it was coming from every corner. She eventually went out to the backyard to check outside, and as soon as she opened the back door, you guessed it, nothing. Complete silence. The even weirder thing, her husband was sleeping right next to her. He never heard a thing. All in all, they ended up selling the house. Once the house was sold and the new owners had it for a few weeks, they actually ended up calling Jackie's mom and asked her if they had experienced anything weird in the house because they were having things happen. I still pass by the house sometimes and it sends chills down my spine. Knowing what I know now, and me also now being a 23-year-old adult with common sense, I would never and could never go back in that house. It's a hard no for me all day, every day. Thanks for letting me share this long story and share it somewhere where I know I'll be taken seriously, LOL. And then our last story for today is The House That Burned Down. I've always been a skeptic, but I drove through my old neighborhood and saw the overgrown plot of land and it made me think of this. I'm more than willing to admit my memories of these events could have grown a little fuzzy, but it still might be a thing you guys are interested in. Some weird stuff happened in my childhood home, and it's something I've never been able to explain. I'd always thought it was just my childhood imagination, until I remembered walking down the hallway to go take a leak and my parents were still in their bedroom and I heard my dad say, "Oh yeah, that old house was haunted." We'd been moved out of the house for about 10 years at that point. Anyway, let's start at the beginning. It was a ranch-style house with a garage and a basement. The basement was unfinished and gave off bad vibes. Maybe that's why it was unfinished. I remember walking down the hallway with the door close to the basement and feeling someone touching my shoulder. This was a recurring element, a feeling of being touched. Never in a threatening way, just like someone trying to get my attention. There were the knocking sounds. Oddly enough, I never heard them. But my dad would be reading bedtime stories to me and stop and ask, "Did you hear that?" And I'd always say no. I always thought he was just playing a prank on me until I heard the above conversation, and sometimes I knocked on my bed while he was reading to me to mess with him. My bedroom was, you guessed it, also above the creepy basement. This basement is huge. Another memory burned into my head is the time I was sitting in the living room, playing Super Nintendo, Legend of Zelda, and seeing a shadowy head peer around the corner at me. It peered from the kitchen. My mom was cooking lunch at the time, and I asked her if she saw something, and she said no. I should note the kitchen is above the creepy basement. Someone broke the window in the creepy basement. We never figured out who did it. We had a grand piano in the basement, so when I wanted to play the piano, I'd have to go down there. Oddly enough, when I actually played the piano, I wasn't near as creeped out. For a few years I took an extended break from living at that house because my parents were having problems, so I lived with my mom in a duplex. When we finally moved back in, I remember having the strangest dream I've had in my life. I woke up to the moon being right in front of my window, inches away. Now I recognize this one as possible being a dream, but I also remember my parents mentioning that they didn't appreciate me waking them up in the middle of the night to come check out my room, so I don't know. Maybe it was a weird sleepwalking, sleep paralysis dream within a dream thing. We lived there a few more years. I was in my teens at that point and remember less creepy stuff happening. But it finally came time to sell the house, and a family moved in. They had a young kid about 5 or 6. We'd get updates from our neighbors that the young kid was a troublemaker. Not normal troublemaker stuff either. Hurting animals, all that stuff. I felt bad for that family. We get an update a few years later that the youngest kid burned the house down. I don't know what happened to the family after that. I tried to do some research on the property, on the family who owned it before and after us, and was never able to find anything. Anyway, that's my creepy haunted house story. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider giving it a like or letting me know in the comments. I post new videos twice a week, funny or outrageous ones on Wednesdays and spooky ones on Sundays. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.